Chapter 1. The Egg of Fire. The forest was alive with the sound of rustling leaves and chirping birds, but Elena's focus was elsewhere. Her boots crunched against the soft earth as she followed the faint trail her instincts had led her to. The villagers had whispered about strange lights in the sky the night before, red and gold streaks that had turned the darkness into a fleeting dawn. To most, it was a tale to tell around a fire. To Elena, it was a mystery she couldn't ignore. Elena had always been drawn to the wild. As a hunter and a wanderer, she felt more at home among the towering oaks and ancient pines than within the stone walls of her village. The forest spoke to her in ways people never could, and today it seemed to be calling her somewhere specific. As she ventured deeper, the air grew warmer, and the once familiar scents of moss and damp earth were replaced by something foreign, a sharp, metallic tang that tickled her senses. Her brow furrowed as she knelt to examine the ground. The undergrowth was singed, as if fire had licked at it, but left no trace of ash. "What happened here?" she murmured to herself, brushing her fingers over the blackened grass. The answer came when she pushed past a cluster of thick vines and stepped into a clearing. Her breath caught in her throat. At the center of the clearing, surrounded by scorched earth, lay an object that didn't belong in the world she knew. It was a massive egg, shimmering with hues of red, orange, and gold, as though it had been plucked straight from the heart of a volcano. Its surface was smooth but alive, flickering with faint embers that danced across its shell. Heat radiated from it, warm but not unpleasant, like standing too close to a roaring hearth. Elena's heart pounded as she approached it cautiously. "An egg," she whispered, as though saying it aloud would confirm its existence. But not any egg. Her fingers hovered above its surface, hesitation flickering in her mind. This was no ordinary find. Legends spoke of dragons, creatures of fire and might, who had once soared across the skies, their roars shaking mountains and their flames turning battlefields to ash. But those were just stories, weren't they? Dragons had vanished centuries ago, their kind driven to extinction by the greed and fear of men. And yet, here it was. As her hand finally made contact with the egg, a surge of warmth spread through her, not just physical, but something deeper, a connection, raw and unexplainable. She gasped, stumbling back, but the egg pulsed in response, the embers on its shell glowing brighter. "Elena," came a voice, deep and resonant, but not from the forest. It echoed in her mind, a whisper and a roar all at once. She spun around, searching for the source, but there was no one. The voice continued. "You have been chosen." "Chosen for what?" she demanded aloud, her voice trembling but firm. "To protect, to guide, to restore balance. The egg is not just life, it is the last of its kind. And you, Elena, are its guardian now." Her mind raced. She had always dreamed of adventure, of a life beyond the mundane tasks of hunting and trading. But this, to be the guardian of a dragon, it was beyond comprehension. Before she could respond, the egg pulsed again, sending a ripple of heat through the air. From the treetops came a sudden cacophony of wings and screeches. A flock of birds took flight, fleeing the clearing as a shadow passed over the forest. Elena's instincts flared to life. She wasn't alone. She spun toward the edge of the clearing, her hand instinctively reaching for the hunting knife at her belt. Emerging from the shadows were three figures, cloaked in dark robes, their faces obscured. They moved with purpose, their eyes locked on the egg. So the rumors were true, one of them sneered, his voice cold and sharp. The last dragon egg, and it's unguarded. Elena stepped between them and the egg, her knife gleaming in the light of the embers. "It's not unguarded," she said firmly, her voice steady despite the fear clawing at her chest. The tallest figure chuckled darkly. "Do you really think you can stand against us, girl? That egg belongs to us. Step aside, and we might let you leave with your life." Elena's grip tightened on the knife. She didn't know what power the egg held, or why it had chosen her, but she felt an unshakable responsibility to protect it. "If you want it," she said, her voice low and dangerous, "you'll have to go through me." The robed figures exchanged glances before drawing weapons of their own, gleaming blades that seemed to shimmer unnaturally, as though infused with some dark magic. Elena braced herself, her heart pounding. She wasn't a warrior, but she was a survivor, and she wouldn't let the egg fall into their hands. As the first figure lunged toward her, the egg flared with a sudden burst of light, blinding the clearing in a fiery glow. Elena felt the heat surge behind her, and for a fleeting moment she thought the egg might explode. Instead, a deafening roar echoed through the forest, and from the heart of the light something ancient and powerful began to awaken. Chapter 2. The Awakening. The roar that erupted from the egg sent a shockwave through the clearing, knocking Elena and her attackers off their feet. The light surrounding the egg intensified, shifting from fiery gold to a brilliant white that made it impossible to look directly at. The robed figures scrambled backward, shielding their eyes as the force of the awakening surged around them. Elena, lying on the ground, struggled to rise. Her instincts told her to run, to flee the overwhelming energy pouring from the egg. But something deeper kept her rooted, an unspoken bond pulling her toward the pulsating relic. She had promised to protect it, and now it was protecting her. "Impossible," one of the robed men hissed, his voice trembling. "The dragon is waking." Elena's gaze snapped to the egg as cracks began to form along its surface, glowing like molten lava. The heat in the air grew stifling, the clearing itself seeming to bow to the power emanating from within the shell. Then, with a final thunderous crack, the egg shattered. From the debris emerged a creature unlike anything Elena had ever seen. Its scales gleamed like liquid gold, catching every ray of sunlight that pierced through the trees. Wings, still damp from the remnants of the egg, unfolded slowly, each membrane glimmering with intricate patterns of firelight. The hatchling's eyes opened, revealing orbs of deep amber that seemed to hold the wisdom of ages. The dragonling's gaze locked onto Elena, and for a moment time seemed to freeze. She felt its presence in her mind, a connection stronger than any bond she had known. It wasn't just a creature, it was a being of immense power and intelligence. "You are my guardian," a voice echoed in her thoughts, deep and resonant, yet youthful. Elena nodded, unable to find her voice. The moment was shattered by the sound of steel scraping against stone. The robed figures had regained their composure, and their leader stepped forward, his blade gleaming with dark energy. "Kill it before it grows stronger," he barked. Two of the men charged toward the dragonling, their movements swift and calculated. Elena's body moved on instinct, placing herself between the attackers and the newborn dragon. She raised her knife, knowing it was no match for their weapons, but refusing to back down. Before the attackers could reach her, the dragonling let out a sharp, high-pitched cry. A wave of fire erupted from its mouth, engulfing the ground in front of them. The flames didn't burn Elena, but the heat forced the attackers to retreat, their robes singed and smoldering. "It's already forming a bond," one of them shouted, panic evident in his voice. The leader cursed under his breath. "Fall back, this isn't over." With a final glare at Elena and the dragonling, he signaled for his men to retreat into the forest. Elena watched them disappear, her chest heaving from the adrenaline. The clearing was silent again, save for the soft crackling of embers on the ground. She turned to the dragonling, which was now curled at her feet, its body small, but exuding a quiet strength. You saved me," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. The dragonling tilted its head, its amber eyes filled with curiosity. "We are bound, Guardian. Your strength is mine, and mine is yours." Elena crouched down, her trembling hand reaching out to touch the creature's golden scales. They were warm, almost comforting. "Why me? Why did you choose me?" The dragonling blinked, its voice calm and certain. "The relic called to you because you are worthy. The bond we share is eternal. Together we will protect the balance of this world." Elena exhaled deeply, the weight of the dragon's words sinking in. This wasn't just an adventure. It was a responsibility far greater than she had ever imagined. "What were those men after?" she asked, her mind racing with questions. "They serve the Order of the Shroud," the dragonling replied. "They seek to control the power of dragons, to bend it to their will. They will not stop until they have taken me or destroyed me." Elena clenched her fists, determination hardening her features. "They won't touch you, not as long as I'm here." The dragonling let out a low, approving rumble. "Then we must prepare, Guardian. The journey ahead will test us both." As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting the forest in shades of amber and crimson, Elena felt a strange sense of calm, despite the storm brewing around her. She had found the dragon, or perhaps it had found her. One thing was certain: her life would never be the same again. Chapter 3. The Bond Forged in Fire. The next morning, Elena awoke to a sky streaked with the soft colors of dawn. The clearing where she had discovered the dragon egg now felt different, sacred almost, as if the land itself had been touched by the magic of the hatchling. The young dragon lay curled beside her, its golden scales glinting in the sunlight. Elena sat up slowly, her muscles aching from the battle the day before. Her eyes drifted to the dragon, which opened one amber eye to regard her. "Good morning," she said softly. The dragon lifted its head, stretching its wings with a grace that belied its youth. "The bond grows stronger," it said, its voice resonating in her mind. "You feel it, don't you?" Elena did. Ever since the egg had hatched, she had felt a strange warmth deep within her chest, a presence that wasn't her own. It was as though their minds were intertwined, their thoughts brushing against each other like ripples in a shared pool. "What does it mean?" she asked. "This bond?" The dragon stood, its small yet powerful body radiating confidence. "It means we are one. Your strength fuels mine, and my power protects you. Together, we are stronger than we could ever be alone." Elena nodded, though the weight of those words made her heart race. She had spent most of her life alone, relying only on herself to survive. Now she was bound to a creature of legend, and the thought both thrilled and terrified her. But there was little time to dwell on her fears. The forest was no longer safe. The attackers from the previous night were part of something larger, something dangerous. The dragon had called them the Order of the Shroud, a name that sent a chill down Elena's spine. "Who are they?" she asked, breaking the silence. The dragon's gaze darkened. "An ancient group who once hunted my kind to near extinction. They crave power, and they believe that by controlling dragons, they can dominate this world. They will not stop until they have captured me or destroyed me." Elena's jaw tightened. "Then we need to leave. They know where we are." The dragon nodded. "You're right. But we cannot simply run. We must prepare. The bond between us gives you more than just a connection to me. It grants you strength, speed, and instincts beyond those of an ordinary human. You must learn to wield them." Elena raised an eyebrow. "Strength, speed. I don't feel any different." "Because you have yet to unlock it," the dragon replied, a hint of mischief in its voice. "Come, let us test the bond." The dragon led her deeper into the forest, where the trees grew taller and the air felt heavier. They stopped at a small clearing surrounded by boulders and fallen logs. The dragon turned to face her, its amber eyes gleaming. "Strike me," it said simply. Elena blinked. "What?" "Strike me," the dragon repeated. "You must trust the bond. Your instincts will guide you." Elena hesitated. She wasn't one to shy away from a fight, but the idea of attacking a creature that had just hatched, her partner no less, felt absurd. "Trust me," the dragon urged. "You will not harm me. Strike." Taking a deep breath, Elena stepped forward. She clenched her fists, feeling a strange heat build within her palms. She swung at the dragon, aiming for its shoulder, but it sidestepped effortlessly. "Again," it said, its tone calm yet commanding. She tried again and again, each strike faster and more precise. With every movement, she felt the bond stirring within her, a surge of energy coursing through her veins. Her reflexes sharpened, her movements becoming fluid and deliberate. Suddenly, the dragon lunged at her, its claws swiping toward her side. Instinct took over, and Elena ducked, rolling to the side before springing to her feet. "Good," the dragon said, a note of approval in its voice. "The bond is awakening. You are learning." They continued their training for hours, the sun climbing higher into the sky. By the time they stopped, Elena was drenched in sweat, but she felt alive in a way she never had before. As they rested, the dragon looked at her with something akin to pride. "You are stronger than I expected, Guardian, but strength alone will not be enough. We must find allies." "Allies?" Elena asked, wiping her brow. "The Order of the Shroud is vast," the dragon explained. "If we are to stand against them, we cannot do so alone. There are others who oppose them, though they are scattered. We must seek them out." Elena nodded, her determination hardening. "Then we'll find them, whatever it takes." The dragon's gaze softened. "You are more than a guardian, Elena. You are a warrior, and together we will face whatever comes." As the sun set, casting the forest in hues of gold and crimson, Elena felt a renewed sense of purpose. She had been chosen for this journey, and though the road ahead was uncertain, she knew one thing for sure. She would protect the dragon with her life, and in doing so, she would discover the strength she had always carried within. Chapter 4. The Call for Allies. The next few days were a blur of travel and training. Elena and the dragon moved through the dense forests, skirting villages and avoiding open roads. The bond between them grew stronger with each passing hour. Elena's reflexes sharpened, her senses became more attuned, and she could feel the dragon's thoughts as if they were her own. But even with her newfound abilities, Elena knew they couldn't stand against the Order of the Shroud alone. The dragon was right. They needed allies. Their journey brought them to the edge of the Whispering Mountains, a range shrouded in mist and legend. According to the dragon, there was a sanctuary hidden deep within the mountains, a place where those who opposed the order gathered in secret. "Are you sure this sanctuary exists?" Elena asked as they climbed a narrow trail, the ground slick with dew. The dragon, perched on her shoulder like a gleaming golden sentinel, nodded. "The guardians of the flame once dwelled there. If any still survive, they will aid us." Elena frowned. Guardians of the flame. Who were they? "Warriors and protectors," the dragon explained. "Long ago, they vowed to defend dragons and preserve the balance of the world. But the Order hunted them relentlessly. Many were slain, their sanctuaries destroyed. If this one remains, it may be our only hope." Elena didn't reply, her eyes scanning the misty trail ahead. The silence of the mountains was unnerving, broken only by the occasional rustle of leaves or the distant cry of an eagle. As they climbed higher, the air grew thinner and colder. Elena wrapped her cloak tightly around her, her breath forming small clouds in the icy air. The dragon, seemingly unbothered by the cold, remained alert, its amber eyes scanning their surroundings. They reached a plateau just as the sun began to set, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple. In the distance, a crumbling stone archway stood amidst the mist, its surface etched with ancient runes. "This is it," the dragon said softly. "The sanctuary lies beyond." Elena approached the archway cautiously, her hand resting on the hilt of her knife. She stepped through the arch and into a vast cavern illuminated by glowing crystals embedded in the walls. The air was warmer here, and the faint sound of running water echoed through the space. At the center of the cavern stood a group of figures, their forms cloaked and their faces obscured by shadows. They turned as Elena and the dragon entered, their movements slow and deliberate. "Who dares enter our sanctuary?" a voice demanded, deep and commanding. Elena raised her hands in a gesture of peace. "My name is Elena. I come seeking allies." One of the figures stepped forward, their cloak parting to reveal a woman with silver hair and piercing blue eyes. She studied Elena for a moment, before her gaze shifted to the dragon. "A hatchling," she said, her voice tinged with wonder. "We thought your kind were gone." The dragon lifted its head proudly. "I am the last of my clutch, and this is my guardian. We have come to fight against the Order of the Shroud." The woman's expression softened, but her gaze remained wary. "The Order's reach is vast. They will stop at nothing to destroy you." Elena stepped forward, her voice firm. "That's why we need your help. The dragon and I can't do this alone." The woman exchanged a glance with the others before turning back to Elena. "You are brave, but bravery alone will not save you. If you wish for our aid, you must prove yourself." Elena's brow furrowed. "Prove myself how?" The woman gestured to a passageway at the far end of the cavern. "Beyond this tunnel lies the trial of the flame. If you can complete it, you will have our loyalty." Elena glanced at the dragon, who nodded. "We're ready," she said, her voice steady. The woman's lips curved into a faint smile. "Then may the flames guide you." As Elena and the dragon stepped into the tunnel, the air grew warmer, the glow of the crystals replaced by the flicker of firelight. The ground beneath them was uneven, and the walls seemed to pulse with energy. "What is this trial?" Elena asked, her voice echoing in the narrow space. "A test," the dragon replied. "Not of strength, but of resolve. The flames will reveal your greatest fears and challenge your will to continue. Trust in the bond, Elena. It will see us through." They emerged into a circular chamber, its floor covered in molten rock that shimmered with heat. At the center of the chamber stood a pedestal, atop which rested a single golden flame, flickering and dancing as if alive. As Elena approached, the flame grew brighter, its light enveloping her. The world around her shifted, and she found herself standing in the ruins of her childhood village, the sky dark with smoke. She saw her younger self running through the streets, calling out for her family, her voice drowned by the roar of flames. The memories she had tried to bury surged to the surface, threatening to consume her. "You could not save them," a voice whispered, cold and cruel. "What makes you think you can save anyone now?" Elena's fists clenched, her nails digging into her palms. "I couldn't save them then," she said through gritted teeth, "but I won't fail again." The flame flared brighter, and the vision dissolved. Elena found herself back in the chamber, the dragon at her side. "You did well," the dragon said, its voice filled with pride. Elena stepped forward and touched the golden flame. It flickered once, before settling into a steady glow, its warmth filling her with newfound strength. The chamber rumbled, and a hidden doorway opened, revealing the sanctuary's leaders standing on the other side. The silver-haired woman smiled. "You have proven yourself, guardian," she said. "The guardians of the flame will stand with you." Elena exhaled deeply, relief washing over her. The fight against the Order had only just begun, but for the first time, she felt like they had a chance. Chapter 5. The Battle of the Sky. The alliance with the Guardians of the Flame brought new hope, but it also brought urgency. The Order of the Shroud had not been idle. Scouts reported that the Order's forces were gathering near the forest, their ranks swelling with soldiers, mercenaries, and mages. Their goal was clear: to capture the dragon at any cost. Elena stood in the sanctuary's great hall, now buzzing with activity. Guardians sharpened weapons, reinforced armor, and prepared spells. The dragon perched on a stone ledge, its golden scales gleaming in the torchlight. "We don't have much time," Elena said, her voice steady despite the weight of responsibility pressing down on her. "If we wait too long, they'll overwhelm us. We need to strike first." The silver-haired leader, Althea, nodded. "You're right, but we must be strategic. A direct assault would be suicide." Elena's gaze shifted to the dragon. "What about the skies? If we take the fight above the forest, we'll have the advantage." The dragon's amber eyes sparkled with approval. "A bold plan. Few among them will be able to match us in the air." Althea frowned. "It's risky. The skies are dangerous, and their mages may have spells to ground you." "Then we'll have to move fast," Elena replied. "If we can take out their commanders and disrupt their formation, the Guardians can deal with the rest." After a moment's hesitation, Althea nodded. "Very well. We'll launch the attack at dawn." The morning air was crisp and still, as the Guardians gathered at the edge of the forest. Elena stood beside the dragon, her heart pounding in her chest. She was clad in light armor provided by the Guardians, its leather and steel designed for speed and mobility. The dragon spread its wings, their span casting a shadow over the ground. "Are you ready, Elena?" it asked, its voice steady and calm. She placed a hand on its side, drawing strength from the bond between them. "Always." With a powerful leap, the dragon launched into the sky, Elena gripping its saddle tightly. The forest fell away beneath them as they climbed higher, the cool wind whipping past her face. From above, the Order's camp was a patchwork of tents and banners, their forces already stirring for battle. Elena could see the glint of armor and the faint glow of magical wards. "We need to find their leaders," she said, scanning the camp. The dragon tilted its wings, circling above the largest tent. That's where we'll strike first." As they descended, a cry went up from the camp. Soldiers pointed skyward, and archers scrambled to ready their bows. Elena's pulse quickened. "Hold on," the dragon warned, banking sharply to avoid the first volley of arrows. It opened its jaws and unleashed a stream of golden fire, cutting a swath through the camp below. Elena drew her blade, the metal glinting in the morning sun. The bond between her and the dragon thrummed with energy, heightening her senses and guiding her movements. The dragon landed with a crash, scattering soldiers as Elena leapt from its back. She moved like a shadow, her blade a blur as she cut through the chaos. The Guardians joined the fray moments later, their battle cries echoing through the forest. The camp erupted into chaos. Soldiers fought desperately to repel the attack, but the combination of dragonfire and guardian steel was too much. "Elena!" the dragon's voice rang in her mind. "Behind you!" She spun just in time to deflect a blow from a heavily armored knight. The force of the impact jarred her arm, but she held her ground. With a quick sidestep, she drove her blade into the knight's side, sending him to the ground. Above them, the sky darkened as the Order's mages unleashed powerful spells. Bolts of energy streaked through the air, some striking dangerously close to the dragon. "They're trying to ground me," the dragon warned. Elena looked up, her jaw tightening. "Not on my watch." She sprinted toward a group of mages weaving through the chaos. Her heart raced as she closed the distance, the bond guiding her every move. With a fierce cry, she struck, her blade cutting through their ranks. The mages faltered, their spells fizzling out as they fell one by one. Above her, the dragon roared, unleashing another torrent of fire that consumed the remaining tents. The Order's forces began to retreat, their morale shattered. As the dust settled, Elena climbed back onto the dragon's back. Together, they soared above the battlefield, surveying the wreckage. "We did it," she said, her voice filled with relief. The dragon nodded. "For now. But this is only the beginning. The Order will not stop until I am theirs, or destroyed." Elena's grip tightened on the saddle. "Then we'll keep fighting, together." The dragon's gaze softened. "You are more than my guardian, Elena. You are my partner, my equal, and with you by my side, I fear nothing." As they flew back toward the sanctuary, the rising sun bathed the land in golden light. Elena felt a sense of hope she hadn't known in years. The road ahead would be difficult, but she was ready for it. For the first time, she truly believed in the bond she and the dragon shared, a bond that would reshape the world.